Bipartisan group of senators have had it up to here with Team Biden stonewalling and talking about lawmakers on the Intel Committee left fuming after being denied access to classified documents handled by President Biden, President Trump, and Vice President Pence. Senators say they need to review documents to assess if there's any damage to national security. I'll pause.
We are left in limbo until somehow a special counsel designates that it's okay for us to get briefed is not going to stand. There was a special counsel involved with the Russia investigation, and this committee worked literally for years. We had to deconflict, but we've got a job to do, and we're going to do it.
I think I speak for every member of the committee. The position the DNI has taken on this topic is untenable.
Until the administration stops stonewalling Congress, there will be pain as a consequence for them.
Wow, little Mr. T channeling. But no amount of stonewalling can stop other shoes from dropping on this scandal. The DOJ has reportedly prepared to obtain a warrant to search President Biden's Delaware house. The other one had the president's legal team not given consent. And the National Archives is asking all former presidents and vice presidents to recheck their personal records, except Dan Quayle, who tells Fox he has not received an inquiry, but he's willing to check his stuff. So, Jesse, do you believe that Senator Warner is going to go as far as Senator Tom Cotton and refuse to confirm any ambassadors or any nominees until they come clean on what exactly was in Joe Biden's stuff?
This is the one thing that's going to bring the parties together, not being able to see the stuff they're supposed to see.
Are you surprised that Senator Warner was so exercised about that?
No, I'm not, because these guys are entitled to do oversight. And like he said, during the Russia investigation, they got briefed. They got briefed all the time. And then they leaked, but they at least got briefed.
Right.
So the DNI comes in, and this was a scheduled briefing, and she goes, you know what? I don't even know what the documents say. She's walled herself off from the document. So it looks like the Department of Justice is the only one that has any idea what's in these documents. And that's not fair, because the Senate is supposed to do oversight to see if there's some sort of intelligence compromise, and then try to mitigate that somehow. So they're being cutting out of this thing. Now, if you're Hunter Biden and you have a box of documents that are out at the dining room table, you got a box of documents that are in the garage, and they have a kid's birthday party that day, and then he gets so banged up, drunk, he stays out to 2:30 in the morning, texts Jill, hey, I lost my key to the house. Can you open the back door so I can come in? This is at the same time he's getting bribed by Chinese diamonds.
Right.
The same time he's fooling around with the stripper. And he, of all people, is losing his house key while these documents are sitting there just out in the garage, out on the dining room table. If I was a senator, Republican or Democrat, I'd want to know exactly what was in those documents.
If it's country first, but everything's been party first. That's what my big surprise was. Dana, the other thing what Jesse said was kind of familiar. You know who else doesn't want to know what's in those documents, what they found? President Biden. Do not tell me.
Don't tell me.
Let me be surprised.
And it seems to me like they've kind of made this a mountain out of a molehill, because if it is something from 2008, the actionable intelligence, if it was really serious, is probably not really that actionable anymore. And forget it, like going back to Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle's so squeaky clean. He doesn't have any documents. Don't worry about it. If Biden had said initially, wow, that was wrong, I should have been more responsible, gosh, you know what? But I looked at the documents, everything's fine. Remember when they did the Mar-a-Lago raid, the media ran away with the story that he was selling nuclear secrets to the Saudis.
Right, or the Russians.
And so why doesn't the media do that now?
I'm not sure.
I mean, aside from Jesse.
Right. Jesse, yeah, your scenario. I'm like, I'm wondering where to get those notes. Judge, right now, when you think about what's going on right now, the president said the exact opposite, really, what he should say. No regrets, no there. No, we got plenty of there.
Well, we got plenty of there. And to go off of the point that, Dana, you were just talking about, when it was Trump, it was drip, 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 drip. Yep. Every day was something else. It was the nuclear codes of Russia, wherever he was sending them to. And then we also had the layout of the classified documents, these top secret documents, like a narrative, like for a school child. Look, there they are right on the screen. Okay, but when it comes to Joe Biden, no narrative, no layout, none of that stuff. But here's the difference. First of all, according to Senator Ron Johnson, in 2014, when Hunter Biden and his partner Devon Archer were trying to get the Burisma contract, that's when an email in that laptop contained information with something like, I don't know, 13,000 words or something, so unlike everything else, which was, give me this, I'll see you that, bicycles, I'll meet you here, with this, this assessment of what was happening in Ukraine that could possibly be from a classified document. Here, there is good cause to make a connection between what documents were seized and whether or not they were at the same time consistent with what they were doing. Now, I want to say one more thing. The job, Jesse, as Jesse just said, is oversight. It has to do with the separation of powers. The fact that there's an investigation is not relevant. There was an investigation during the Russia investigation. Right. Everybody was entitled to know what was going on then. Joe Biden and his administration are stopping everyone from having access to what's going on. Jessica,
is it worth it for the president to take this heat from his own party and from a bipartisan group? Is there something among those? Can you blame anyone for thinking that there's something so bad it's worth taking the heat from his own side?
Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. Talk about it more. Talk to the American public more about how this was unintentional, that he has great respect for the process. That's why he's cooperating, which is something markedly different from what former President Trump did. But no, you need as many allies as you can possibly have when you're heading into a re-election.
Question the strategy.
I think everybody on both sides of the aisle has questioned the strategy. The press secretary is not being given enough, at least to answer questions. Even John Kirby
was. Are you sure
was
about that?
Yeah.
Have you spoken to her?
No,
She's not being given enough,
I know how to watch
being told
television.
what to say?
I can see her. I can see that she's struggling and that the principal is not making her life easier.
Or
send someone else out.
Maybe that's the message. Maybe it's
the message is
Stonewall.
Karine Jean-Pierre can't have decent answers to these questions. No, they're not happy with the coverage of it. No one is happy. I mean, when you have, as much criticism from Kelly O'Donnell as you do from Peter Doocy, you know that you're doing something wrong here, right? And so Mark Warner and Dick Durbin, these are longtime allies of President Biden, right? Going back decades. These aren't just new senators that popped up the other day, like Alex Padilla. I don't really know him. These are people who have been in the Biden camp for a long time. And you're pushing them to have to make comments that I'm sure they do not want to make. And you have to explain to a group of senators who all follow the rules about going into a SCIF and returning the documents how it's possible that those got out of there.
And also, and final thought on that, one of those documents, or at least one, is from his days as senator. So you're talking about 2007.
Right.
So it's a long time ago.
And why haven't they gone in and searched the Rehoboth house? Why?
Or his brother's house or Hunter's new house.
Can I just say something quickly, though, about Mar-a-Lago versus the Delaware home? Mar-a-Lago is a place where there are people being entertained. There are parties there every single night, and that was cause for concern about how things were being kept. I understand that Hunter Biden is a big party animal, but it's not the same thing as President Trump is in a tuxedo all the time, entertaining tons of foreign nationals.
Totally different area. Have you ever been there?
No, I'm not invited
his
there,
office
and
is totally separate.
I question why.
So then don't
But do you know that every single document is there?
What you
don't assume.
know.
And also, Mike Pence did a bad thing, too.
But
You talk about other vice
don't
presidents.
Point your finger.
Judge's point is there's a residence area and there's a public area, and the place was locked up. Like, you have no idea what his office looks like if you're a member of the club.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.